Voters in Florida had 6 amendments on their ballots, tens of millions of dollars spent by those for and against 2 of the amendments, Amendments 3 and 4, recreational marijuana and abortion. And so I want to bring in now Jacksonville University law professor Nathan Richardson. Thank you so much for joining us again for more analysis. Both 3 and 4 failed. Does that surprise you? They did not reach that 60% threshold.
It's slightly, but not totally. Like, if you look at the numbers, they were actually supported by a majority of voters, just not quite enough to reach that 60% threshold. So the way Florida law works, that means they failed. There's no change in our law. Recreational marijuana remains illegal, and we still have the legislature's action on abortion, that 6-week ban that they put in place just last year.
So let me ask you about recreational marijuana. Now that failed, you told me that we saw something similar happen when it came to medical marijuana, which is allowed here in Florida. Explain that.
That's right. That change in the law also happened because of a constitutional amendment, and it took a couple times for it to pass. And that's not that uncommon generally with changes to the law. That's true when you pass statute in the legislature, and it's true when it goes before the voters here. Sometimes it takes a few times. We don't know what's going to happen here. Maybe it won't come up again. Depends on whether we can get the signatures, whether the legislature takes action. The direction other states are moving seems to be towards more legalization. I suspect Florida can't lag behind that forever, but we'll see what happens at the federal level, and we'll see what happens on the ballot next time.
And recreational marijuana is still illegal federally.
Yes, it's still illegal federally. The Biden administration has looked at changing the scheduling of the drug, but that wouldn't fully decriminalize it. I suspect eventually we're going to see some federal action on this, but remains to be seen.
Okay, we saw hotly contested debates over the abortion amendment, which had that passed, that would have allowed more abortions to take place in the state. Because it failed, what does it mean the abortion law is now in Florida?
It means there's no change. It means that the 6-week ban, or the ban on abortions after 6 weeks into a pregnancy, remains in effect in Florida. That's one of the most stringent regulations in the country, except for those states that ban abortion in all circumstances. Something that's interesting is a very similar ballot measure was on the ballot in Ohio and Michigan and a few other states. And in those states where it passed, making national headlines, it got about the same number of votes, same percentage of votes as we did here in Florida, like 57-58. And that was treated as a big victory for abortion rights advocates in those states, made major change in their law. About the same number of Floridians agreed, as did in Ohio, a state with a pretty similar electorate to us. But because of our rules, that's 60%, put in place by the people under another constitutional amendment in 2006, one, by the way, that only passed with 57% of the vote, it didn't become law here in Florida. So the political story is a little hard to parse, but the legal story is not. The legal story is the law remains what the legislature made it last year.
And so it can be difficult to get to that 60% threshold. It's one of the most highest thresholds in the nation, right?
That's right. As far as I can tell, only New Hampshire has a higher threshold. It's one of the highest in the country. It is very, very hard to get 60% support for anything in the political environment we have here today.
All right. Nathan Richardson, thank you so much for coming in. We will have more of our election coverage coming up right after this.